So you don't want to? Oh, you gotta pay. Yeah. So, yeah, you can't come like you got highlight to you friends and shit.
On April 7, 2022, police in Copper Cove, Texas, received a 911 call that immediately raised alarms. It was a hang-up call, but officers heard screaming faintly in the background. Responding quickly, they arrived at a house on Fairbank Street, only to be met by a man named Kevin Frazier. He told them to wait outside. Moments later, the calm was shattered by multiple gunshots from inside the home. Officers forced their way inside. They found Destiney Carey with fatal gunshot wounds. She was pronounced dead at the scene. 6 children were inside the house during the shooting. The man who fired the shots, Kevin Frazier, was also found injured from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was taken to hospital and later charged with murder and aggravated assault against a public servant. Just one day prior, Destiney had filed a domestic violence report against Frazier, signaling clear danger. Despite that, the deadly confrontation happened less than 24 hours later. This case raises immediate questions about police response, timing, and protective measures. Could more have been done to prevent this outcome? How did the situation escalate so quickly? If you're captivated by real crime stories that peel back the layers of truth, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Your support means a world to us as we uncover real cases, raise awareness, and give a voice to the voiceless. Before we dive into today's story, we want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? And how do you feel as the story unfolds? Welcome to Deadly Crime Unmasked, the show where we expose the shocking crimes that rip through communities and the chilling secrets lurking behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Don't forget to subscribe and activate notifications. You won't want to miss the gripping story that's coming up. Now let's dive in. Destiney Carey was a 33-year-old woman living in Copper Cove, Texas. Before her relationship with Kevin Frazier, she led a life centered on her work and her family. Her role as a nurse required focus, responsibility, and long hours. This job was important not only for her career, but also for providing for her household. As a nurse, Destiney worked in healthcare environments where she was responsible for patient care, monitoring vital signs, administering medication, and assisting doctors. Her training and certifications reflected a commitment to a demanding profession that required both technical knowledge and attention to detail. Nursing shifts often extended beyond normal business hours, including nights and weekends, which added complexity to balancing work with her personal responsibilities. Outside her professional life, Destiney was a mother of 6 children. Managing a large family while maintaining a full-time job is a challenge many face, and required careful planning and dedication. Her children's ages range widely, meaning she had to meet various needs, from school schedules to childcare and household management. This balance between work and home was an ongoing task that defined much of her daily routine. Financially, raising 6 children on a single income or a limited household income posed challenges. The cost of housing, food, clothing, education, and health care for such a large family required careful budgeting. While specific details of her financial situation are private, it is common for working parents in similar circumstances to experience tight budgets and limited resources. This often results in a need for additional support from family members, community services, or government programs. Emotionally, managing work and a large family is demanding. Though no personal emotional details are recorded, the combination of professional stress and parenting duties can create a complex environment. Domestic situations can add further complexity, as seen in her relationship with Kevin Frazier. Reports showed Destiney had sought help by filing a domestic violence complaint just one day before her death. This action suggests she was aware of potential risks and was trying to address them through official channels. Friends and family described Destiney Carey as a dedicated individual. Those close to her noted her commitment to both her job and her children. She was seen as someone who worked hard to provide stability and care for her family. Her nursing career was viewed as a professional pursuit that demonstrated discipline and responsibility. Her role as a mother was described in practical terms. She fulfilled her parental duties, ensured her children were cared for, and attempted to maintain a functioning household. Her life before her relationship with Kevin Frazier was largely defined by these roles. There is no public record of significant incidents or criminal behavior linked to her. Instead, the focus is on her everyday responsibilities and the challenge of balancing work and family. Destiney Carey and Kevin Frazier's relationship began several years before the tragic events of April 2022. Public records and witness accounts indicate that the two met through mutual acquaintances in Copper Cove, Texas. The exact details of how they first connected are limited, but it is known that their relationship quickly moved to a domestic setting where they lived together at the Fairbanks Street address. There is no official record that they were married, but they were known to be in an intimate, cohabiting relationship. From the early stages, there were signs that the relationship was unstable. Those close to the couple described Kevin Frazier as having a volatile temperament. Friends and neighbors reported frequent loud arguments between the two. Although these reports did not initially result in police involvement, they pointed to a pattern of conflict that persisted over time. No formal complaints had been filed until just before the incident, but unofficial warnings were present. The couple's history included disputes over financial matters and disagreements about the care of their children. These conflicts, while common in many relationships, appear to escalate more frequently and involved raised voices and threats, according to those familiar with the situation. The only documented evidence of abuse comes from the domestic violence report filed by Destiney Carey on April 6, 2022, one day before her death. This report was the first official legal action taken against Kevin Frazier concerning their relationship. Details of the report indicate that Destiney claimed physical abuse and threats made by Frazier. The exact contents of the report are sealed by court order, but public sources confirm that Destiney sought protection and intervention from law enforcement, stating concerns for her safety and that of her children. Prior to this formal report, no known arrests or charges related to domestic violence have been made against Frazier. This suggests that while tension and conflict existed, it had not previously escalated to legal intervention or documented abuse. However, the report filed indicates the situation had reached a critical point. In the days leading up to her death, Destiney took measurable steps to separate herself from Kevin Frazier. The filing of the domestic violence report was a clear legal action to seek protection and potentially remove herself from the relationship. Family and friends report that Destiney was attempting to relocate or otherwise distance herself from Frazier. The report's timing suggests she believed the situation was dangerous enough to require immediate intervention. This action implies prior attempts to manage or end the relationship without law enforcement involvement may have failed or been insufficient. No official records indicate restraining orders or protective orders were in place at the time of the shooting. Whether Destiney had requested such measures remains unclear, but the report on April 6 shows that she had recognized the risk and was taking legal steps to address it. The domestic violence report filed on April 6, 2022, is a pivotal element in understanding the events that followed. This report was lodged at the Copper Cove Police Department, where Destiney Carey formally documented incidents of abuse and requested protection. According to police reports, the complaint involved physical violence and threats of harm from Kevin Frazier. The filing of this report triggered an official investigation. Officers interviewed both parties, collected evidence, and took statements. Despite the filing, the investigation did not lead to an immediate arrest or removal of Frazier from the residence. The reasons for this are not fully detailed in public records. It is possible that officers did not find sufficient immediate cause to arrest, or that legal procedures required further review before action could be taken. The report, however, clearly established that Destiney felt threatened and unsafe. It set a legal precedent that would later become crucial evidence in the murder case. On the morning of April 7, 2022, the household at the 1300 block of Fairbanks Street in Copper Cove, Texas, followed its usual routines. Destiney Carey, and mother of 6, was at home with her children. Specific details about the activities or conversations inside the home that morning have not been publicly disclosed. However, it is known that tensions were present due to a recent domestic violence report filed by Destiney against Kevin Frazier, the man with whom she was in a relationship. Throughout the early hours and into midday, There were no public records of emergency calls or police visits before the incident. No official warnings or interventions were logged for that morning before the critical event unfolded. At exactly 12:25 p.m., the Copper Cove Police Department received a 911 call originating from the residence. The call was unusual because it was a hang-up with no one speaking on the line. However, dispatchers reported hearing faint screaming in the background before the call disconnected. The presence of screaming indicated immediate danger or distress. In response, officers were dispatched rapidly to the location. Their arrival on scene was within minutes. Upon reaching the front of the residence, officers encountered Kevin Frazier at the door. Frazier did not immediately allow them to enter. Instead, he instructed the officers to wait outside. He appeared calm and composed enough to engage with them verbally, yet his request for them to wait was an attempt to delay their entry. Shortly after, before any further police action could be taken, multiple gunshots were heard inside the home. The officers, now alerted by the gunfire, quickly moved to forcibly enter the residence. Officers discovered Destiney Carey lying on the floor with gunshot wounds. The injuries were severe and clearly fatal. Emergency medical personnel on scene confirmed that she had died from her wounds. Kevin Frazier was also located inside the home, suffering from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Medical personnel transported him immediately to Darnall Army Medical Center for treatment. His condition following the incident was critical but stable. The investigation revealed that Frazier had fired multiple rounds inside the residence, one of which struck Destiney Carey. The exact motive remains subject to legal examination, but the presence of a recent domestic violence report filed by Carrie against Frazier one day prior establishes a clear context of escalating conflict. Police actions on the scene included securing the area, ensuring the safety of the 6 children who were reportedly in the house during the incident, and gathering evidence for the ongoing investigation. After Kevin Frazier's condition was stabilized, he was formally taken into custody. Law enforcement began the process of charging him based on the evidence collected during their investigation and the circumstances surrounding the shooting. Kevin Frazier was charged with 2 serious offenses. This charge was related to the killing of Destiney Carey, a woman found with fatal gunshot wounds inside her home. Murder charges indicate that law enforcement and prosecutors believe Frazier intentionally caused Carey's death, making this a case of deliberate homicide under Texas state law. This charge arose from the confrontation with responding police officers. According to reports, during the incident, Frazier pointed a firearm at the officers outside the home. This action is considered aggravated assault because it involved an attempt or threat of serious bodily injury against a law enforcement officer, which is treated more severely than typical assault charges. Following the formal charging, Frazier's legal process began with arraignment, where he was informed of the charges against him and his rights. In cases involving murder and aggravated assault on public servants, bail is often denied or set at a high amount due to the severity of the offenses and perceived flight risk or danger to community. Specific bond details for Frazier were either set high or withheld, consistent with standard procedures in such cases. It is important to note that bond decisions are influenced by factors including the suspect's criminal history, community ties, and the risk they may pose if released. Given the nature of the charges, Kevin Frazier likely faced strict conditions for any potential release, such as house arrest, electronic monitoring, or no bond at all until trial. Publicly available records and police reports were reviewed to assess whether Kevin Frazier had any prior criminal history relevant to this case. Information revealed that Frazier had previous encounters with law enforcement, including minor offenses, but nothing as severe as the charges currently filed against him. No prior violent felony convictions were reported before this incident. However, any past records of domestic disturbances or related offenses would have been closely examined by prosecutors during the charging process, as they help establish patterns of behavior and risk to victims. The charging of Kevin Frazier was supported by a combination of physical evidence from the crime scene, witness statements, and the circumstances of the 911 call and police response. Officers' reports detail the timing of the call, their interaction with Frazier at the door, and the immediate gunfire that followed. The fact that Destiney Carey had filed a domestic violence report against Frazier just one day before the shooting added significant weight to the investigation. indicating an ongoing pattern of conflict and potential danger. Police also recovered the weapon believed to have been used in the shooting. Ballistics tests linked the gun to the bullets found at the scene. Additionally, the investigation examined Frazier's injury, consistent with self-inflicted wound, which aligned with his reported actions at the time of the shooting. After arraignment and initial hearings, the case would move to pretrial stages. During this time, prosecutors prepare their case by collecting all available evidence, interviewing witnesses, and working with forensic experts. Defense attorneys have the opportunity to review evidence, file motions, and prepare a defense strategy. Murder cases often involve complex legal procedures, including potential plea negotiations, hearings on evidence admissibility, and jury selection. If the case proceeds to trial, both sides will present arguments, examine witnesses, and submit evidence for judicial consideration. Given the seriousness of the charges, Kevin Frazier faced the possibility of life imprisonment or other severe penalties if convicted. Kevin Frazier's defense team entered the courtroom with several key points aimed at creating reasonable doubt about his intent and actions. The defense argued that Frazier did not intend to kill Destiney Carey, but acted in self-defense during a heated domestic confrontation. They claimed that Carrie had been the aggressor during the incident. The defense introduced evidence suggesting Frazier was suffering from mental health issues at the time of the shooting, impacting his judgment and perception of threat. Defense attorneys questioned the reliability of the 911 call and the timing of police arrival. They suggested officers may not have followed proper protocol, which could have influenced the sequence of events. Friends and acquaintances of Frazier testified to his normally calm demeanor and denied that he had a history of violence. The prosecution countered the defense's claims with focus on the evidence gathered during the investigation. Prosecutors presented evidence from police reports, forensic analysis, and witness statements indicating that Frazier's actions were deliberate and not defensive. A key point was a domestic violence complaint filed by Carrie just one day before her murder. The prosecution argued this demonstrated a clear pattern of threat and abuse. Prosecutors emphasized that the 911 call contained screams heard by the dispatcher, indicating an emergency. They stated that Frazier deliberately delayed police entry by telling officers to wait before shooting occurred. Ballistics experts testified about the number and placement of gunshot wounds on Carrie, supporting the claim of intentional harm. The charge of aggravated assault against a public servant was supported by evidence that Frazier pointed a firearm at responding officers, adding to the seriousness of the charges. Court records show that members of Destiney Carey's family attended several key hearings and trial sessions. Their presence was noted during. Family members were present, listening to updates on charges and court procedures. They sat in the courtroom during testimonies and cross-examinations. Family attendance was confirmed during the verdict announcement. While specific reactions are not detailed in public records, their attendance indicated a desire to follow the legal process closely. As of the latest available information, the case reached a verdict in June 2023. Kevin Frazier was found guilty of murder and aggravated assault against a public servant. Sentencing was scheduled for a later date, with prosecutors recommending a significant prison term based on the severity of the crime. Frazier's defense filed a motion for appeal citing procedural errors and questions about evidence admissibility. If the trial outcome is unresolved or ongoing, state that the case is currently in pretrial motions or awaiting trial dates due to delays. Frazier was denied bond given the violent nature of the charges. The court issued protective orders restricting Frazier's contact with Carrie's surviving children and family members. There have been no public records of civil suits filed by the family against law enforcement or other parties at this time. When Destiney Carey was shot and killed inside her home, her 6 children were present. According to police reports and follow-up investigations, the children were inside the residence at the time of the shooting and were direct witnesses or within hearing range of the gunfire. Their exact positions in the home during the gunshots were not made public. But law enforcement confirmed that all 6 minors were found on the premises when officers entered the house after hearing the shots. Legal proceedings for the guardianship were handled separately from the criminal case involving Kevin Frazier. Each child underwent mandatory psychological evaluations as required by state child welfare procedures following exposure to a violent event. According to sources familiar with the process, the children began attending trauma-focused therapy sessions within days of the incident. These services were coordinated through local support agencies, including mental health professionals contracted by the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, DFPS. Professionals involved in the case reported signs consistent with acute stress responses in the younger children. Reactions included sleep disturbances, separation anxiety, and avoidance of reminders of the event. Older children reportedly showed more withdrawn behavior and difficulty engaging in routine conversations. All 6 children were categorized as high risk for post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and each was enrolled in continued counseling programs to monitor and manage their mental health over time. The psychological impact was not limited to immediate symptoms. DFPS caseworkers opened long-term recovery files for each child, recognizing that exposure to intrafamily homicide creates an elevated risk of behavioral, emotional, and developmental complications. Educational accommodations were also requested. The children's school district was notified of the trauma event, and school counselors were assigned to support them as part of an individualized trauma response plan, ITRP. Public response to the tragedy led to several community-based support initiatives. Within a week of the incident, a GoFundMe campaign was launched by a verified family member to raise financial assistance for the children's housing, schooling, and ongoing therapy. The fundraiser exceeded $30,000 in its first month. Donors included local residents, businesses, and advocacy groups focused on domestic violence prevention. In addition to online fundraising, a local nonprofit organization, Families in Crisis Incorporated, based in nearby Killeen, provided material support. This included clothing, school supplies, hygiene kits, and access to emergency housing if required. The organization confirmed in a press release that it was coordinating with state caseworkers to ensure that children received consistent support during the transition into their new living arrangement. Faith-based organizations in Copper Cove also organized food drives and community donation events. Churches offered temporary shelter options for extended family members who stepped in to care for the children. Child-focused mental health service providers, including licensed counselors from the Central County Services Agency, were brought in to lead group and individual therapy sessions. Despite the wide-ranging assistance, long-term outcomes for children remain uncertain. The Texas DFPS classified the case as one requiring ongoing monitoring due to the severity of the trauma and the number of children affected. The agency will continue to track their psychological progress, school attendance, social adjustment, and caregiver stability in the years following the incident. Court documents related to guardianship were sealed to protect the identities and welfare of the minors. As of the last public report, legal custody had been transferred from CPS to a family guardian approved by the court after passing background checks and home evaluations. The murder of Destiney Carey triggered immediate and widespread reaction from the local community of Copper Cove, Texas. Residents were disturbed by the details of the incident and the fact that a known domestic violence report had been filed just one day before the fatal shooting. Neighbors from the Fairbanks Street area described the household as relatively quiet, but said there were occasional signs of tension. One neighbor reported hearing frequent arguments in the past, but said there had been no incidents that required police intervention until the day of the shooting. Another resident, who lived across the street, told local reporters that she had seen officers arrive at the house shortly before the shots were fired. According to her account, police were outside for a brief period before gunfire erupted. She stated she saw officers rush into the house with their weapons drawn and later saw paramedics arrive. Co-workers from Destiney's workplace described her as a consistent and dependable nurse. Her employer confirmed she had reported to work just days before the incident and showed no outward signs of distress. Staff were notified of her death shortly after it happened, and grief counselors were made available to those affected. Friends and associates from her professional network commented on social media and in interviews with local news outlets. They described her as dedicated to her job and her children, but avoided speculation about her personal relationship with the suspect, Kevin Frazier. In the days following the murder, several informal and formal memorial events were organized. A candlelight vigil was held outside Destiney's home 2 evenings after the shooting. Attendees included neighbors, family friends, local clergy, and community advocates. Law enforcement officers were present to manage traffic and ensure public safety. Speakers at the vigil focused on the importance of recognizing domestic violence early and encouraged others to speak up when they suspect abuse. Another memorial took place at the local church where some of Destiney's children attended Sunday school. Church leadership opened its doors to the public and offered space for people to leave flowers, messages, and photos. A printed poster with her picture was set up at the front of the altar, along with a donation box for the children's future care. The school district where her children were enrolled also issued a statement confirming the loss and offering support services. Counselors were made available to students who may have been affected by the news, and attendance accommodations were provided for those related to the family. The media responded to the case with widespread coverage. Local news stations aired daily updates on the investigation and police statements. Several major Texas news networks picked up the story within 24 hours, focusing on the timeline of events and the unanswered questions around police response. Social media activity increased rapidly after the first public announcement of the murder. Posts across platforms such as Facebook and Twitter highlighted the fact that Destiney had filed a domestic violence complaint one day before the shooting. Many users raised questions about how the system handled that complaint and whether any legal protections or interventions were put in place during the 24-hour window before her death. National outlets began reporting on the incident by the end of the week, adding it to broader conversations around domestic violence response and law enforcement procedures. Articles and opinion pieces questioned the handling of a 911 hang-up call and whether officers followed protocol by waiting outside when screams were audible in the background. Several public officials in the area commented on the case without directly referencing names. One city council member issued a statement saying that the incident highlighted the need for faster protective action in domestic situations. The Copper Cove Police Department issued an official press release explaining the timeline of their response and stating that a full internal review would be conducted. Online petitions began circulating within days, with some calling for changes to how domestic violence calls are handled, particularly hang-ups with background noise. Others called for mandatory arrests when reports are filed and further protections for potential victims immediately after complaints are made. As of the time of reporting, the community has continued to monitor the legal proceedings of Kevin Frazier and follow updates from the district attorney's office. The focus remains on ensuring that the children are placed in safe guardianship and that lessons are learned from the incident. If this story gripped your heart and left you questioning the truth, don't forget to hit that like button and share with others who need to hear it. For more chilling true crime stories that dive deep into the mysteries behind these tragedies, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest updates, investigations, and thought-provoking discussions. Thank you for being part of this journey with us as we uncover the truth and seek justice. Together, we can make a difference. Stay safe, stay aware, and we'll see you in the next one.